love, Scarlet Everose here. Today we're diving into a very intense and well-known character from Jujutsu Kaisen, Toji Fushiguro, a man who stands out in a world full of cursed energy even though he has none. Today will just be a breakdown of what makes Toji such a dangerous and a very popular and unforgettable character. Before we begin, I really want to say thank you all so much for enjoying my channel and enjoying my videos and my breakdowns of each character that I've done. I cannot believe we're at episode 45. I am super excited to see what we do next after my two week break, since I'm gonna be going on break here after this video. And thank you all so much for being patient with me throughout my journey. Thank you for being through my milestones and just being a really great audience. And I hope you guys enjoy these videos, and please like and subscribe. And if you guys also want to follow my socials, they're down in the description below. The reason I'm gonna say this real quick, the reason I chose Toji real quick is because he's such a really fascinating character. And he is Megumi's father, which I've also done a video of his own son, if you guys want to watch it, in the title card. And yeah, if you guys want to follow my other breakdowns, they're also on a playlist right up there, if you guys see, and you guys can catch up. Alright guys, let's dive into this video. Segment 1. Who is Toji? Toji Fushiguro comes from the Zenin clan, one of the most powerful sorcerer families, born without cursed energy. Rejected and cast aside by his clan, he lives as a monarchy/assassin for hire. Instead of becoming a sorcerer, he becomes something else entirely, a man who survives through pure skills and instincts. So to not get confused, so there's a character I've already done named Zenin, that she is a sorcerer and she doesn't have any. She uses glasses because she can't see cursed energy. But Toji's different though, because he didn't have those techniques at all. He was just a non-sorcerer person, and his clan rejected him for that. Versus Makai wasn't, she was still a sorcerer. She was gonna become a sorcerer anyway, but Toji was like, you know what, screw this, I'm out. And also, he was also, he lost, Megumi's, mother. And he never really, it's not that he wasn't there for Megumi, it's just he was working so much that he hardly didn't even see it. And mind you, I think during that time, Megumi's mother was pregnant with him. So, he was working hard to kind of provide for both Megumi and his sister. But he wasn't there to, witness the birth and stuff. And mind you, spoilers ahead, but Gojo kind of deleted Toji from the world. And Megumi never really found out. I don't think, at least in the anime, I don't think he ever found out about his father. But I could be wrong, because I know the manga is completely different, which I assume and sure that Megumi does find out about his dad. But Gojo, of course, I also did a video on him too, takes over, and and he he's a better dad than Toji. But the thing, there's like a funny gag between that where it says, I saw something like on TikTok or something that Gojo has like PTSD of Toji, because he gets because Megumi, with his hair down, which of course he does, gets is so similar to his biological father that Gojo gets confused sometimes, and he's like, you know what, kid, I'm gonna change your hairstyle so I don't necessarily nuke you from the world. So yeah, that's what he does. But Toji, you know, he isn't necessarily a bad guy. He just chose a different profession because, you know, his own clan rejected him from that. Segment 2. Why is he so dangerous? What makes Toji terrifying is how he fights. He has no cursed energy, but has extreme physical strength and speed. He has he owns a chain and a combat awareness. But he also uses cursed tools to compensate and dominate. He doesn't rely on techniques. He relies on precision, timing, and experience. That's what makes him lethal. So he has a chain that's like with cursed energy, I think. And he also has this little creature. It's like a cursed creature where it's around his body basically. I'll name everything in the text so you guys know what I'm talking about. And you know, he's a great fighter, even though sorcerers like, you know, Gojo, anyone else cannot really sense him because he doesn't have curse energy. So one thing I found out I think it's with season 2, spoilers ahead here, Toji has beef with Gojo for some odd reason because he felt like Gojo was looking at him wrong, when in reality, I'm just gonna be honest about it, this grown man was having beef with the child who at the time he saw Gojo, because Gojo was a teenager during that time. And Toji was like, you know what? A kid looked at me wrong, and I know there's a reason for it. I'm just gonna put in the title, but I'm just gonna be a little funny about it. So he kind of basically has beef with Gojo because he found out about Gojo's clan, which they're like the elites of the other clans, and I think he got a little bit low-key jealous of Gojo because, you know, people kind of accepted him while Toji was rejected. But it was kind of funny because there was like a grown man having beef with a child, and all Gojo did was just stare at him. Like a quick stare, that was it. But apparently to Toji, that was like, you know what, kid, when you grow up, I'm gonna find you and take you out because you looked at me wrong. Apparently in Toji's eyes, but yeah, he's extremely powerful. He uses a gun, technically, and he, you know, he goes after Gojo, Gito, which I've also done a video on him, and also because there's a girl, Riko, her name was, that they were protecting, and you know, I think he wanted those you know, dollars too, even though they're called yen. And it was like, you know what, screw it, I'm taking this kid out and I'm gonna win that money, because basically he was providing for his wife during that time. So like I said, he's not necessarily a bad guy per se, but you know, he did some bad choices, yes, but he loved his wife. He, you know, if he wanted to see Megami, he would, but he couldn't, you know. And a lot of people kind of perceive him as a deadbeat dad because he wasn't there, which wasn't true, you know. It's just, he just had a really hard life and just couldn't see him. And mind you, you know, Toji's wife was pregnant during that time, so yeah, he wasn't really there. And yeah, so he's really more of an anti-hero. But I can tell you, with a little bit of that screen time, holy cow, he's a really, really popular character, especially with the fangirls. Holy crap. When I found out Toji was like the most popular character, I was like, huh. But not to sound corny here, but aside from Satoru Gojo, obviously, but you know, he's really popular, and yeah, Alright, let's go into the next segment. 3. His popularity and his impact. Toji isn't just strong, he changes the story. His actions affect major characters directly. He challenges what it means to be a sorcerer. He proves that cursed energy isn't everything. Even without being present at all time, his impact is still throughout the series. So like I said with my segment 2 towards the very end, yeah, he's very popular. I think what he proves is that even though he was rejected by the clan and chose not to be a sorcerer, he still challenges even the greatest sorcerers. Remember, like Gojo, for example, he got Gojo good in season 2 because he lowered his guard down. He took off his limitless infinity and stuff, and that's when Toji attacked. And even with while Gojo was fighting Toji, it was very for Gojo it was a shock because he could finish people like that, but with Toji he had a lot of difficulty. He had quite a little bit of difficulty trying to get Toji. And with Gito, he knew where Gito was, like, on him before Gito became evil. But what I think he proves is that, yeah, sure, he made some bad choices, obviously, but he chose that you can still challenge yourself and others for people not to underestimate you, because the difference between Makai and Toji a little bit is because Makai, regardless of what, yeah, she was underestimated, but she became a sorcerer anyway. Toji was like, you know what? No, I'm not becoming a sorcerer. Not just because my family rejected me. I just don't want to. He could, if he wanted to. He could have become a male version of Makai and leave it as that. But no, he was like, you know what? I'm using another profession because I'm not dealing with that crap. And I think the impact that he had is that he has such a cool confidence towards about him, a cool aura about him, and like I said, the reason I go back to Gojo a lot is because a lot of people cannot defeat Gojo. That's the thing. The only person that did was Kenjaku, which was the cursed energy that took over Gito's body, and Toji was, I think a non-sorcerer almost took out Gojo, and that was surprising. So basically, I think, in my personal opinion, what Toji kind of represents is even if you make bad choices, don't let that stop you from becoming stronger and becoming a better version of yourself, because we spread positivity in this channel. So yeah, and like I said with that little screen time, all the girls go feral for that man. So do some guys too, I'm gonna lie. But you know what, he kind of reminds me a little bit, but except this is a complete different character and complete different and power too, even though they do use power on this. He reminds me a lot of Kurapika due to the chains. When I saw the chains, the first person I saw was Kurapika, which I'm also going to put a video on here too, if you guys want to watch a video on Kurapika as well. I don't know, the chains are very popular in anime. That's what I've realized, and I feel like in something you can tell in some ways, Hunter x Hunter was the inspiration for that a little bit because of the chains, Gojo and Killua, which I've also done a video of that too. Yuji reminds me a lot of Gon, except take out the cursed fingers and a double persona about it, but complete different animes, but some similarities to it. And also Toji was also a type of character that he fought till the very end. He didn't care what he had to do. He was gonna do it anyway, regardless of what people said to him. And mind you, just kind of like Makai, except I think Makai had it a little harder, due to the fact that she was a woman and not a man. Because I feel like when it's a guy, people kind of reject you, but they don't reject you as hard as they do with when they did with Makai. But he was he can prove, if you don't have a certain talent, doesn't mean that shouldn't stop you from from going another route and discovering yourself because of that. As long as you try to do good choices, you have a good life. 4. Final thoughts plus what's next. Toji Fushiguro is a reminder that power doesn't always come from talent or status. Sometimes it comes from survival, adaptation, and sheer will. So yeah, real quick about Toji, even though he was never a sorcerer at all, never became one, even without all that technique and that talent, he fought tooth and nail for his family. He's an anti-hero, and what he really kind of shows you that you don't have to be everything or be someone you're not, basically. And if you can't do certain things, that's okay. Don't let that limit you, really. Like I said, he took out the strongest. Let me remind you this. He took out the strong. He didn't take out what we thought he did, but he almost took out the strongest sorcerer in JJK and honestly in anime history. But he almost did, but he did it anyway without any cursed energy. And that's really impressive. And also, he also proves that even though he did some bad choices, he had a reason to. He wasn't bad because he wanted to be bad. He was an anti-hero because he was rejected by his own family, and he had to work hard, to be an assassin, to, get the money that he needed. And he was also, a person that didn't care. A lot of people said, how, I'm sure a lot of people were like, how can a non-sorcerer almost take out the greatest sorcerer? Almost. But he did. He almost did for like a little bit of the time in season 2. So he was like the challenge of the greatest to the greatest challengers. And what Toji could provide, as long as you do good choices, obviously, if you can. I'm not saying nobody's perfect. You're always going to make mistakes no matter what. As long as you don't let it define you, you're good to go. But I think the point of Toji is that the people that work the hardest, I can promise you that those hard work pay off. Because I can tell you this right now, heck, there's some moments where procrastination really gets to me. It takes me a while. I ain't gonna lie, I'll be a little vulnerable. It takes me a while to, get things done. And, but sometimes I have to tell myself, look, I'm not gonna be the procrastinator I used to be, and I'm just gonna go through with it. I don't care if I'm tired. I don't care if I'm emotional. I'm going with it, and I do, and I finish it. And that's what Toji also kind of represents is, don't let your emotions nor what you're feeling in that moment stop you from what you want to be and what you're going to achieve. And even though he's an assassin, at least he had a reason to. Alright, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and thank you all for all being here. And also, I'm like I said, I'm gonna be taking a break from doing episodes for 2 weeks because I just want to have a restart. Plus, there's a movie that's gonna come out, the Michael Jackson movie, that I'm super stoked to watch, and I'm not gonna miss this movie for anything. So yeah, thanks for watching, you guys. More Jujutsu Kaisen characters, but also more anime breakdowns of different shows are gonna be coming soon too. I can't wait to share the next one with you all. Alright, guys, love you all. Bye.